Welcome back to the Road to National series. In today's episode, I'm going to take you through a dynamic effort upper workout. So last week, I massively messed up my mathematics and loaded up the bar way too heavy. But this week, I just decided to resume what I should be lifting. So I'm doing 80% of my 1 rep max in total. That's bar plus band tension. And I'm doing that for 3 sets of 5. So these moved obviously way better than last week, where I just loaded up the bar way too heavy. And I was happy with these. There was a nice kick at the top, particularly in lockout, which is what we're trying to get with dynamic effort work. So that went well. Then moving on to the accessories. The first accessory I did was skull crushers using my Swiss bar. I did these at 45 kilos, which is sort of a light-ish weight for me. I normally do it at about 55 kilos, and I think I've pushed as heavy as sort of 60 or 65. But to be honest, I think that was too heavy. Like, my triceps didn't really feel it, and it contributed to a lot of fatigue, which recently I've been talking in all my recent episodes about not wanting my accessories to contribute to fatigue. So I've lightened the load a bit at 45 kilos, and I think I got sets of 15. Now, it burned loads there. I yelled out after that first set because the triceps really did burn from this. This is probably my favorite tricep accessory, particularly for powerlifting. So for building just crazy strength within the triceps, they're in a slightly stretched position, but at that top position you get a massive contraction, and you'll notice that I don't bring my arms all the way to vertical. That's because if I locked out at vertical, there would be very little resistance actually on the triceps. Like, the weight would just be grounding down through your arms. Instead, you want to keep your humeri, your upper arms at a slight angle so that you lock out at an angle, and that is what makes the triceps burn like crazy. So they went very well. Then the next accessory here was dumbbell rows. So I did these pretty heavy. Well, as heavy as I can go, because these are the heaviest dumbbells I own, but I think I got them for sets of 15 with a little break in. So in that first set, I had a bit of a break after, I think, 10 reps, and then cranked out 5 more. Now, these look like I'm not doing much of a range of motion, particularly from this angle, but my back felt it massively, particularly up in my traps. So I row with my body almost near vertical. I don't bend right over. So there's other people who talk, for instance, Lee Haney, 8 times Mr. Olympia, talks about barbell rows and saying that you should have your back parallel to the ground. I have my back inclined much higher. One, because then my lower back is not a failing point. If you bent right over, your lower back is under much more stress. But 2, I'm trying to hit my upper traps, and contracting at that angle hits the traps better. And at the time of recording this, it's the day after, my traps are feeling pretty sore. So I think that those rows hit them effectively there. So the next accessory here was incline dumbbell press. I did these with 45 kilos, which is the heaviest I've done on a 15-degree incline before, and I got them for sets of 10, which is definitely the most I've been able to do, but obviously it's the heaviest weight, so I've never really done any reps with this amount of weight before, but I was happy with these sets. I'm often trying to do my dumbbell presses incline now. I used to always do like flat dumbbell presses, but I'm trying to get the shoulders involved a little bit more, because I used to never train my shoulders. They were more of a genetic strong point over my chest, so I'd always want to do like flat and decline work for my chest to try and grow it, because the shoulders would take over. However, that is more of like a bodybuilding mentality, and when it comes to just pure strength and powerlifting, you want to get strong in every sort of direction, and getting strong incline, it definitely has great transfer over to flat. So the next accessory here is machine rear delt fly. So I've never done these before on this machine. It looks like a very small range of motion, and that's because it doesn't get an amazing stretch on the rear delt, and that's because the machine literally doesn't, allow the hands to come all the way in. However, it isolated the rear delts very well along this fixed plane of resistance, and the contraction was great. So I don't want to bring my arms any further back than this, otherwise it would start to become like a back movement. Your traps would start to take over, and that's a mistake a lot of people make when doing like rear delt work, is they try and just pull their arms as far back as possible, and what happens is your traps start contracting and taking over. So instead, you want to do almost the opposite of what you're taught to with every other exercise. You want to sort of round your chest, round your back over, and cave your chest in, which is like the opposite for any sort of press that you've been told to do, or any sort of row, and that will help isolate the rear delts more. So this felt really good. It was the first time I've ever done this, and it got a pretty good pump in the rear delts and managed to isolate them. So they are a very difficult body part to isolate, and I was happy with those. Then the next accessory here was hammer curls. Well, it was for at least one set. So I talked briefly last video, I drilled some holes in my rack to try a modification, which I did last video, which was like a sissy squat substitute. But unfortunately, I had an accident with the drill where when I was changing the drill bit and the chuck was feeling hard, I accidentally pulled the trigger and like carved up my right hand just in on the thumb. When I was doing that. So I powered through the first set of hammer curls, but I had to change here to reverse grip barbell curls because my right hand, the dumbbell was slipping through it and hurting. So like there's no point. People say like no pain, no gain. Yes, in terms of like pushing your muscles hard. But if you've got something like a cosmetic injury, something like I've got where my skin's cut open, there's no point like prolonging this sort of injury and reopening the wound. It's just stupid. So it was better to do reverse grips for the second set to let the hand heal over a bit. So the final accessory here is cable crunches. Now, when I do cable crunches, as you can see, I like to use this belt. And the reason is because it isolates the abs way more. It takes my arms and my upper body out of the equation altogether. For some people, when they do cable crunches, like one of my friends has trained cable crunches, and he's fine just holding on to like a rope and crunching down. His arms are never the limiting factor. For me, the pressure of my arms being bent, it just feels weird, and my arms always seem to be the limiting factor. So I prefer to use a belt like this. The only hard part about this is you are like way stronger because it's further down your body, and once you get into position, trying to actually get down so that you're grounded is hard. So I have to hook my knees around where the quad extension pad is to keep me grounded. Otherwise I would not be able to do these, but these felt fantastic and provided a great burn to the abs. Yeah, as you can see there, it sort of pulls me up if I wasn't grounded. So that is it for today's video. I hope you did in fact enjoy the video. If you did, drop it a like, drop it a comment, subscribe, click the bell, all of that wonderful stuff. And I hope you have a great day.